5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Oka Cast. I'm your host, Tin.
And I'm your host and your best friend, Alan.
Awesome. So welcome back to another episode, episode 20, where this time we're actually doing a Discord edition only because we're quarantining. Recently, we did find out that Tiffany tested positive for COVID-19. So that's why we're doing this over Discord into streaming.
I mean, yeah, and cases have been rising, so we're just trying to do our part, be responsible.
So it's just better this way too. I guess just going right in. Just one thing I really wanted to talk about since the start of our last podcast was the Dave Chappelle SNL skit, the stand up monologue that he did on there.
So, for those who don't know, Dave Chappelle is a stand-up comedian, actor. I think he's like a producer too, or whatever. Producer, writer. Yeah, he's been in the game for like 30 years, right? He's like, I think like the term like greatest of all time gets thrown around pretty loosely, like pretty like everyone's oh yeah, everyone's GOAT, everyone's greatest of all time. But I personally consider Dave Chappelle one of the actual greatest of all time stand-up comedians.
Without a doubt, there's no question about it. He is the GOAT. I feel like he has really mastered the craft of comedy where it's to the point where he's actually not even like, I don't know, he's like transcended comedy and became more of an orator. And he just
Yeah,
kind of.
he's a very poetic guy.
Mm,
And when he talks, it's very like it sounds very nice, and it's like he the structure is very nice. It feels like a poem.
yeah. And he just has a way with words, and it's not just his way with words, but it's also how he gives thought to his stand up and what the things he says.
So you wanted to talk about this Saturday Night Live monologue. What
Hmm.
about it like stood out to you? What about it made you like go like, "Oh, I really want to talk about this."
What really drew me into this is that um he is able to talk about like very sensitive topics and bring he can bring you to think about it too. Like he'll make jokes about like things that people don't normally joke about, or people say, "Oh my God, is it that's too soon," you know. But he what really draws me is that he's able to like take down this facade of comedy and gets real with you for a second, and then it brings you back like how real like our world is compared like what on what he's saying, and then he's able to out of nowhere throw a punchline in there, bring you back into like a comedy stand up. But like for him to be able to make you think about what's real and like what's the reality that we're facing is what really drew me into his stand up, this particular stand up. He did a very similar one back in 2016 as well, where he was doing the same exact thing. And this one I feel like was actually if anything, is just as good as his 2016 stand up on his SNL monologue.
I think that tends to be my favorite kind of comedy is the fact is like the stuff that really talks about like stuff that is I don't know, it's like resonating, and it delves a little bit deeper than just like, oh, like this is a dumb situation. It's like
Mm-hmm.
it takes like something serious and dark and like personal, and it makes it funny, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It humanizes them in a way that's like very like inviting, like, oh wow, I can listen to this guy talk about whatever for a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why Dave Chappelle and there's a couple of comedians that do something similar. They like tell stories in a very poetic way, and it's like heavier stuff. Not heavy in the sense like because it's still comedy, but heavy like more. It like delves a little bit deeper, gets into like nitty gritty stuff. Like Mike Birbiglia and Daniel Sloss. Those are like two of my favorites. they have a very similar like poetic um style, very poetic and very much a little bit deeper.
Mm-hmm. Like a deeper understanding, and they're
Yeah,
able to really paint you a picture of a scenario that's what's really going on, or they are able to tell you the story really well
exactly.
and see what the point of the story is. I think there's another person who I know also does that too. I think it's Steve Carlin. I think he like passed away. I forgot it was a really old white guy comedian that passed away, but he was just selling. He was just basically putting it out like there. If you took away all like if he didn't, if he was doing a stand up, and which every line he said was a comedy line, but at the same time, if there was no audience, it would just be a huge lecture of him telling everyone in the world, like, this is what's happening. You are being controlled by, you're living in a world where you're being controlled by this and that and that and that. But since he was doing it as a bit, everyone was laughing at it. Where if you took out the whole audience, it would have felt like really real, really real. And some comedians can do that, some can't, which really draws a line for me. But I guess for today, for this special episode, is that we actually wanted to, since if you haven't gotten to seen it yet, you can actually take the time to listen to and hear the actual monologue right now, because I feel like
And we're
I
gonna
think
react real time.
we're gonna do a real time reaction, and you can see what our thoughts and go in depth with what Dave Chappelle is saying. Now let's get started.
So this is the night after Joe Biden won the election. If that, like, just some context.
All right, yeah. So yeah, Biden was just named president elect, like the night after this
The
video
night,
before.
I think the day of. So either the night before or the day of.
Mm-hmm. And
Because I think it was Saturday, and then Saturday night it was this show.
okay, so this is the very same day.
I was thinking about a person I never actually met, but I heard about all my life. I was thinking about my great-grandfather, who apparently, by all accounts, was a very great man. He was born a slave in South Carolina, was a slave for 10 years of his life, and when the Northerners came down, they started educating some of the newly freed black children, and he learned how to read. Got enamored with education and dedicated his life to three things: education, freedom of black people, Jesus Christ. Became a juggernaut in the AME church. It's a pretty amazing story my great-grandfather had. And I thought about him all day today because I wish I could see him now. And I wish he could see me. Because I wonder what he would say. This week I flew to New York on a private jet to host Saturday Night Live. Netflix started streaming a show that bears his name, Chappelle Show. And HBO Max is streaming it. And I didn't get paid for any of it. Yeah, if he could see me now, he'd probably be like, this nigga got bought and sold more than I have. This morning, after the results came in, got a text from a friend of mine in London.
Yeah, right. It was the morning, he
The
said.
world feels like a safer place now that America has a new president. And I said, well, that's great, but America doesn't. Do you guys remember what life was like before COVID? I do. It's a mass shooting every week. Anyone remember that? Thank God for COVID. Something had to lock these murderous whites up, keep them in the house.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. That's true though, right? Wasn't there like a shooting, like there was a shit ton before
Yeah.
the quarantine. I remember in the beginning of the year it was like such a huge problem because it was like a couple hundred in like January or something like that.
Mm-hmm. There was like Las Vegas shooting. There was a synagogue shooting. And there was like school shootings happening. Like I wouldn't say every other week, but like every so now and then. And I remember people. There was a huge movement with like at high schools where people wanted more security at the schools or something. And so and like that's where the biggest talks around that time before COVID were like having gun control laws, because how these kids are so easily able to grab guns accessibly.
Yeah, it was like the end of last year and the beginning of this year. It was like
Way
Like-
out of hand.
like a whole shit ton.
And it's funny that he brings up COVID. He's like, thank God for COVID. Finally stopped all that, something had to stop them from coming out and then using COVID as an excuse.
Like what?
Kind of sheds light on the
Because that's the thing, though, right? Because have we heard anything about like another major like mass shooting since quarantine started? No, right?
No, because
That's
everyone's
crazy.
only because everyone's not gathering large groups anymore, so there's no point in finding large
Yeah.
groups.
It's crazy.
And
That's so funny.
that's not the only point, but like also, a disease is keeping them inside the house now. It's funny in contrast too, because how you said thank God for COVID, even though COVID killed 200,000 people, whereas on the lower scale the shootings were on the way less than that deaths. So it's really ironic. Use one problem to solve another problem.
And a lot of these small towns in America was dying. My town was dying. So what I did is I did shows in my neighbor's cornfield. And these shows were very successful and may have even helped save the town. Isn't that something? And the local farmers, my neighbors, started to complain that my shows were too noisy. In a cornfield. Too noisy in a cornfield. I had to have a whole town meeting about how noisy I was being in a cornfield. It was so embarrassing. And I resented it. I resented that these country farmers could decide a guy like me's fate. People don't deserve to do that. They haven't seen enough. They don't know anything. They probably watch me right now. They're probably like at home like, honey, come quick, come quick. The guy from the grocery store is on television. No, you big dummy. The guy from television is at the grocery store. Kind of guy that probably has an account on farmersonly.com. You ever heard of that website, farmersonly.com? Website that begs the question, what kind of bitch only smashes with farmers? That's gross. They had a whole Zoom meeting about me. I didn't talk on the meeting, I was just listening. Man, you should have heard them talking about me. They were saying, man, I'm trying to put my children to bed. And I keep hearing this guy screaming all night. My kids are trying to sleep, and all they hear is the N-word. I said, was I saying it, or were you? He had that twang in his voice. You know that twang where you hear that accent like, oh, I know he doesn't wear his mask. I don't know why poor white people don't like wearing masks. What is the problem? You wear a mask at the Klan rally. Wear it to Walmart, too. Wear your Klan hood at Walmart so we can all feel safe.
That was actually really good. Because you would see nowadays, it's like, he brings that up because there's a lot of people defending their rights to not wear a mask and everything. Like, well, where were you touting that when, you're at your Ku Klux Klan rallies and shit, when you're gathering at, for like wrong reasons. And I guess, and what he's talking about predominantly, a lot of you see this more happen with white people, where they're refusing to wear a mask and like saying that their liberties are being violated. But, it kind of brings in the joke like, hey, I don't know why you're complaining now when before you're okay wearing it, during your rallies.
You're happy to wear a mask
Yeah.
until it inconveniences you.
It's
That
just
still
nuts.
bothers me. It's like, it's such an easy thing to do.
Right.
Just wear a mask.
You had no problems before. Why should you have a problem now?
It's not even the mask. It's just like when people are told what to do, they just don't want to do it.
Yeah. But when they're encouraged to do something, then I guess I don't know. It makes no sense. It just people are just like going against the system, I guess.
Right? People make more money from their stimulus checks than they do if they work. So a lot of people don't want to work. You know what it reminded me of? Ronald Reagan. Well, you're a black fella. You're a young fella, though. You don't know about Ronald Reagan. Remember what Ronald Reagan used to say about black people? How we were welfare people, drug addicts? Who does that sound like now? Stimulus checks, the heroin. And the rest of the country is trying to move forward, and these white niggas keep holding us back.
Oh man.
Oh, how the
Don't even want
turntables.
to wear your mask because it's oppressive. Try wearing the mask I've been wearing all these years. I can't even tell something true unless it has a punchline behind it.
I like that line a lot, where he says, I can't even say something true unless it has a punchline behind it. Like, it's just this idea that, like, if he were to try and, like, I don't know, like, preach or something, like, just, like, get up on his big platform and try to, like, spread a message or, like, say something legit or real, people wouldn't take him seriously because he's a comedian. And he's like, can't even say something real without a punchline behind it. I like that line a lot.
Yeah, that's true. Because people, I think there was also another point where what's his name, Jerry Seinfeld was also is that a real name, Jerry Seinfeld?
Yeah.
There was also a point where during his like one of his Oscar speeches, he was like saying like some real shit, but people were just laughing at everything he was saying. And like if you just take away, it's kind of like one of those things. If you take away the audience, that they're not laughing anymore. It's like some pretty real shit that like they're saying what the comedians would say on like when they have the attention or the spotlight.
Mm-hmm.
And like just like what Dave Chappelle was saying, this is kind of crazy how just like what you were saying, they won't take him seriously and if he were not to throw a punchline behind it, and if he didn't turn it into a joke, they're like, why is he saying the things he's saying? They will probably be if anything, they'll probably be more offensive of the things he's saying if it wasn't a joke. It would just come off like completely like racist or something, or they would take it personal or offensive, and it's just crazy. And he has to put a joke behind it in order for people to realize that it's a joke.
You guys aren't ready. You're not ready for this. You don't know how to survive yourselves. Black people, we're the only ones that know how to survive this. Whites, come, hurry quick. Come get your nigga lessons. You need us. You need our eyes to save you from yourselves. Remember when white people and black people couldn't be together? It was just white people alone in the club dancing. You ever see that old footage? How'd they look? Is what they was doing with the body. You need some black eyes to look at you like, stop doing that. Now Trump is gone. I know a lot of people don't like him, but I thought the guy was at least an optimist. I am not as optimistic as he was. I look at it like, there's bad people on both sides. All right, just trying him out.
So I don't understand that joke. I was trying to figure out what that joke meant for the longest time. I didn't get it. It just never came to me.
He was saying Trump is optimistic because he believes there's good people on Wait, yeah, because Trump always says like, "Oh, there's good people on both sides."
Uh huh. Is that dismissing the fact that there's bad people on both sides, or what?
I think he was just like he was just saying that Trump is optimistic because Trump says there's good people on both sides. But he's saying, well, he's like, oh, I think of it as there's bad people on both sides.
Hmm.
And nobody laughed. And he was like, all right, fuck it.
Oh, I guess kind of was like a more of like a miss joke.
Yeah, I think so.
Hmm.
Called the coronavirus the Kung Flu. I said, you racist, hilarious son of a bitch. I'm supposed to say that, not you. It's wrong when you say it. So I'm on a press conference one time. Donald Trump's a wild guy. You ever see this? He was on a press conference, tried to guess the cure of the coronavirus in front of the whole world. It's a wild thing to do. What about very powerful light directly in the body? I said, what? Did this man just suggest that I put sunshine directly in my body? Well, that's insane. He went further. What about some bleach? Some bleach directly in your body. I said, oh boy. Secret Service is going to have to child-proof the White House now. He's just trying to drink the bleach.
I actually watched
Don't
that
touch
press
stove,
conference.
it's hot. Turn those
That's
scissors
crazy,
around.
dude.
You're going to run around the house like this, Mr. President. Scariest part about that, one of the leading virologists in the world was sitting as close as you are to me, and she just watched him say it. It's crazy. Her face was looking like he might be right. She was I saw that. I said, ooh, that's why. That's why. That's why women make half.
Oh no.
Did I trigger you? I don't know what it is. Half, maybe 70%, whatever it is, it's too much. I'm sorry, Lauren. I thought we were having a comedy show.
Damn. That first part when he's mentioning about how Trump was mentioning all that possible cures on national television.
The press conference was just as crazy as he makes it sound. It really was that weird. He was like, how about bleach? Or like, did
Yeah.
this guy, what?
We can inject bleach into vein, or you can drink bleach to get rid of the coronavirus.
I'm like, oh god.
We can inject, bleach into the veins. And then I think there were actually some people who drank bleach, and they end up dying. I mean, there's at least one couple on the news I knew, like I think it was an old couple, but I think it was more so around the time where he was promoting hydroxychloroquine.
Mm.
And then there was that I don't know, it was an elderly couple or maybe a couple in their 50s or something like that, where they actually drank Clorox or bleach because that's what President Trump said to do. And like, when you take matters into your own hands as like actual science, where you're not an expert in, and you start touting your own like personal opinions and advice to the whole world on what they think they should do, it's gonna end up bad. That's crazy.
It sucks because he knows like people hang on every word he says. People like really listen to him, which is stupid.
Mm-hmm. And then the next bit about how their leading neurologist was behind him, was just like kind of like looking at him, nodding her head, and it's kind of like, what?
It's hard though because that is the president, and he like he's the one who signs your paychecks, so you're like, I'm just gonna, I can't say shit.
In the end, I feel like, in my opinion, it's more like bribe money right there. Like, I'm gonna pay you this much, you just agree with everything I say, or else if you don't, or blackmail, if anything, if you don't agree to anything I say, you don't get this paycheck. You know, that's what I think was just happening right there. And to like put like a scientist, I guess not a scientist, a doctor in that regard, a neurologist.
I think it was a virologist.
What's a virologist?
Like someone who studies viruses.
Oh, a virologist. Okay. Well, someone in that regard to throw
But yeah,
away the morals and disagree with agree to wrong misinformation. That just shows that how much like I don't know. I feel like people are just getting bribed at that point. Or
I mean, it's hard though because you still have to, have a living, make a living, and you still need to like when the president hires you, you're not gonna be like, no, and then you're not gonna like embarrass the president in front of TV because that's the end of your career basically. You know what I mean? It's like it's you can say like, oh yeah, of course she should say something and she should not spread misinformation or whatever, but like there's like she's walking on eggshells basically, she like still she still has a career she just needs to think about, and her family and all that other shit. But
I understand.
And it's hard because it's like he just came up with that on the spot. He was just talking about it like during a press conference. She can't just be like stand up and like grab the mic from him and be like, all right, that's all bullshit, don't listen to him.
I wasn't expecting her to do that much, but she could at least nod her head. But I understand the situation that she's in. It's just how far can it go? Like I feel like even like Dr. Fauci in some ways has been very careful in what he says on, especially
he will at least be like, there's no evidence that says that this works or that works or whatever the president says. This is what we have so far.
Exactly. Yeah.
But he doesn't like outright just be like, that guy's an idiot. Like, why are we even
right? He won't like humiliate the president, but he wouldn't have spread any misinformation or anything at the same time. I guess on her part, that virologist's part, it just it's just kind of like it's nothing that she could do, I guess.
And you don't know what she did after that press conference.
Yeah. If I just have it all at once, or just like what the fuck, just kind of caught her off guard. Like I didn't know I signed up for this, or kind of thing. It's just kind of hard to watch.
Like a woke meeting in here. And after all that, you know what he did? You know what Trump did after all that stuff? Went out and got the coronavirus. Wasn't that something? When he got coronavirus, they said everything about it on the news. But you know what they didn't say? That it was hilarious. It was hilarious. Trump getting coronavirus was like when Freddie Mercury got AIDS. Nobody was like, well, how did he get it? This guy was running around like the outbreak monkey. He looked like a 1970s penis, just raw dog and earth.
Raw dog and earth.
Day after he made fun of Joe Biden's mask, this guy wears the biggest mask I've ever seen, which is a ridiculous thing. Joe Biden's mask wasn't any bigger than anybody else's mask, Mr. President. Lucky for the rest of the country, though, he had a good health care plan, didn't he? Some good coverage. Helicopter picked him up. Right in his front yard, helicopter came. Remember that video where he's walking to the helicopter all by himself? No one to be around. Usually he's walking to the helicopter with a bunch of people. No one's around him this time because, he had the Rona. Had his mask on then, didn't he? He was walking over. Helicopter took him to Walter Reed Hospital. I'm from D.C., and I got to tell you, Walter Reed is not close to the White House, but you can walk. Team of doctors was waiting for him. All the doctors came around, gave him experimental medicine and stuff, and flew him back home in a helicopter. And then he walked right up the steps. You ever see this video? He took his mask off, saluted the helicopter, and then walked right in the house, killed 4 more people. I said $700.50 in taxes goes a long way, doesn't it, sir? Some cold stuff, man. That's some cold stuff. That would be like me going to a homeless shelter with a bag full of hamburgers and saying, "These is mine." And then just start eating in front of all the homeless. Don't let hunger dictate your life.
That's so true, though. That's exactly what
Cold,
Trump
man.
did.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Chris Christie's fat ass was in the ICU fighting for his life. Chris Christie got all the fixings. Everything coronavirus likes to eat, that's what's in Chris Christie's body. Fat, check. Asthma, check. Diabetes, check. Coronavirus is like, Herman Cain's black ass had been dead for 2 weeks. Where was his secret serum? That's your leader. Think about that. For 4 years, that's your leader. What kind of man does that? What kind of man makes sure he's okay while his friends fight for their lives and die? A white man. And I don't mean to put this on the whites, but I've been black a long time. I've noticed the pattern. But if you're a good white, you actually want to help, join me. I'm not even joking. It's my plan. It's called the Kindness Conspiracy. It's random acts of kindness for black people. Do something nice for a black person just because they're black. And you gotta make sure they don't deserve it. That's a very important part of it. They can't deserve it. The same way all them years they did terrible things to black people just because they're black and they didn't deserve it. If you're driving through the hood one day and you see a black dude standing on a corner selling crack, destroying his community, buy him an ice cream. Just buy him some ice cream. He'll be suspicious, but he'll take it.
I kind of wanted to go into this part where he went into depth about how, like, he had like the secret serum and he wasn't willing to share it with his friends. And about how I found it kind of crazy. He put it in a good perspective of how if President Trump has the secret serum that, you know, got him better from the coronavirus within like a couple of days or I don't know however long, a week from his time of having the COVID, like where was, you know, his how come his friends never got like that, you know, that same treatment?
Yeah. I mean, that analogy was spot on. That you walk into a homeless shelter with a bag of hamburgers. These is mine.
Yeah.
You know?
And just waving it in front of them, like, don't let hunger dictate your life. It really goes to show, like, this, you know, how can you not help out your fellow people when you have in your hands, you know?
And then, like, how do people reconcile that? They're just like, yeah, that's my president. I support that guy. I like, he doesn't care about me, but I still support him. He doesn't care about like the people that help him and surround him, but I still vote for him. You know, it's like, how do you like make that like those mental gymnastics? You know.
Mm-hmm. What I really loved about that part was that he, you know, he said his whole joke about how the other person had all the fixings for the coronavirus. He had diabetes, high blood pressure, all the other comorbidities, and then he got real with everyone. It was like, how, like, while this man is in the ICU, like fighting for his life, this guy has had, the special treatment that has, pretty much helped his recovery from the COVID. Why didn't this guy get the same treatment? He brought down the facade real quick and was like, "That's your leader. For 4 years, that's your leader." Someone who just looks after themselves in a way, and doesn't give a shit about the other person.
There's one TikTok where this girl is talking to her parents, and she's pretending that she's talking about a new boyfriend, but she's actually talking about Trump. She's like, "Oh yeah, like I've been seeing this new guy. He's like really close with God. He's like, but he does have some sexual assault allegations." And the parents were like, "Wait, what? Like, can't go out with that guy like that. Like, why are you even with this guy?" And she's like, "There's no proof." And the parents are like, "Oh, like that's still not right, like that's even if he has sexual assault allegations." And she was like, "Oh, then why is like, well, he has like there's no proof." And they did a deep dive on his Twitter, and he said some like racist stuff, and the parents were like, "Oh my God, like what are you doing?" And she was like, "Oh, he's not good enough for me, but he's good enough to be your president." And you could see like the
Right.
gears turning in the parents' head, like,
Ding.
"Oh my God, she's pulling our leg." And like, oh, like you can see immediately where like the walls come up, and they're like, "All right,
Yeah.
we're not even gonna like acknowledge the things she said. We're just gonna like shut off and be like, nope, that's our
I've seen that video. That shit was actually very clever for the daughter to do that to her parents.
It's
But
like,
yeah, it's like, wow, like how do you like turn a blind eye to all that stuff immediately once it becomes like your, a bad thing for them.
it's
You know
like,
what I'm saying?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. How do you like? It's like, how do you make that fit into your head? When you hear it, when you read it on paper, you're like, that's not a guy I would ever support. That's not a guy I would ever let into my home, near my family. Like, but you let that guy run your country, like.
Right. And they're so quick to dismiss the idea, like they don't want to accept it. And it like looking at the video also, it just like pains me to see how stubborn they are to not accept that they're wrong. Admitting that they're like, oh man, maybe what I was thinking before was kind of like, maybe I should rethink things. It never occurred to them to do that or have that thought. They're just like, don't talk to me about this anymore. They'll just kind of like ignore everything that just happened, or just ignore because they just can't admit that they're wrong, I guess, or just accept the fact that maybe they should rethink of their values and like, oh man, maybe she's right. We've been looking at this one thing one way. We should probably look at it this way, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
That it's just, oof. I can't believe that's what we've come to.
I would implore everybody who's celebrating the day to remember, it's good to be a humble winner. Remember when I was here 4 years ago? Remember how bad that felt? Remember that half the country right now still feels that way. Please remember that. Remember that for the first time in the history of America, the life expectancy of white people is dropping because of heroin, because of suicide. All these white people out there that feel that anguish, that pain, that mad because they think nobody cares. Maybe they don't. Let me tell you something. I know how that feels. I promise you, I know how that feels. If you're a police officer, and every time you put your uniform on, you feel like you got a target on your back. You're appalled by the ingratitude that people have when you would risk your life to save them. Oh, man, believe me. leave me. I know how that feels. Everyone knows how that feels. But here's the difference between me and you. You guys hate each other for that. And I don't hate anybody. I just hate that feeling. That's what I fight through. That's what I suggest you fight through. You gotta find a way to live your life. You gotta find a way to forgive each other. You gotta find a way to find joy in your existence in spite of that feeling. And if you can't do that, come get these nigga lessons. Thank you very much. And good night.
Wow.
So yeah, that's what I'm saying about how poetic he is. It's very like beautifully put. I like the part where he says, you guys hate each other for it. I don't hate anybody. I just hate that feeling. It's like very, very beautifully put. That's like words to live by right there.
Definitely. Because you can't, everyone's got their problems. You can't, it's hard to, I mean, it's so easy to put a blame on someone versus putting, you know, just recognizing that instead of blaming someone, just internalize it and figure out, just hate the problem that it's, you know, it's giving you instead of hating someone, just hate the problem itself.
Like, don't treat the symptom, treat the disease, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah, that was beautiful. But yeah. And it's crazy. Like, he really ties into I want to bring up the fact that he also ties in with how the police brutality that's been going on against black people. And like they feel like he really touches in the fact that police feel like right now everyone's kind of like out to get them, like defunding the police, and talks about like how police are now like, I want to say number one hated by, but probably up there like occupational wise. Like when you see the police, everyone's like, oh, it's the police. Like be careful, you know. Everyone's got their eyes on them, pull their phone out immediately, and like if at least the police feel like they have a target on their back. They're like, anything we do, people are just gonna want to take out their phones and just start recording us immediately, just to, you know, just to surveillance us. And
right,
I feel like everyone's out.
People are ungrateful.
Exactly. It feels like they feel like everyone's out to get them, to catch them what they're doing wrong. And that's I feel like that's very hard to have a job like that when you don't have your supervisor looking down on you, instead you have the whole world looking at you now. Just to, you know, to label police as bad people, it's kind of scary. Imagining going to work where you're touted as, you know, as like one of the most respectful or jobs up until you're outed as, or the news or media brings you down as a really bad occupation, like, you know, people to watch out for. It's very scary, and it can make them act irrationally. And I like how he actually is able to acknowledge how they feel and like bring that in, tie that in with how that's how black people feel when they leave the house.
Yeah, like all the time. Yeah.
When they leave the house, it's like they have a target on their back as well by the police. Like what you guys are feeling is also how we're feeling right now too. And I feel like he did that analogy so well. Like, believe me, you guys are not alone how you guys are feeling. That's what you guys are feeling is also how we're feeling right now. And I think it was very beautifully put. The other thing that Dave Chappelle also brought up in that kind of last bit was like, which I kind of like, is that you should do nice things for black people when they don't deserve it. That was a really good point.
It's like, because horrible things were done to them when they don't deserve it.
Yeah. And like, think back, if you ever like back on your own interactions with just black people, just as an example, would you go out of your way to do something nice for them, other than like open the door?
Yeah,
You know,
I don't know.
like would you actually go and like see someone, like give them some change for like a homeless person, you know, when they didn't deserve it? Would you actually like go, like, you know, someone's like walking, let's say some person's walking down the street, you just kind of like roll down your window and offer them a ride to work or something, or wherever they're trying to go? You know, it's just kind of like small things like that. Like, do you ever think about like when was the last time you actually ever did something like that? And
You
it's
mean
hard.
like in general or for
This,
black people specifically?
in a way, both, but I guess black people specifically in this example, because I
Right.
feel like black people unintentionally get the shit end of the stick. You know.
Do you ever just think about like your whole life and your experiences with um a particular race? You're like, wow, I was. You ever think like, wow, I was really racist in that moment, or like, um, something like that?
Um, I'm sure there was. I just
Is there
can't
any off the
remember.
top of your head like, wow, I was super racist?
Mm, no, not really. I don't know. Like, I feel like I might have done it at one point, but I don't remember. It was
Same.
very
I think
like,
for sure, like without a doubt, I know at some point in my life, I probably have done something like that, you know?
mm,
And then it makes me think like, okay, just try to be like super conscious of it moving forward, and like if ever that situation comes up again, I like maybe do something different or like say something different. I don't know.
yeah.
It's very hard to like keep yourself like accountable, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times you don't even realize you're doing it, and it just like happens. And you're like, like a year later, you're like, oh shit, I was just thinking back on a random moment, like,
It's
oh
like,
my
oh,
god.
damn, dude, I should not have said that.
Yeah.
It's like, I should not have done that. Oh, man. And like, but I think like it's hard because I think at the time maybe you just didn't know,
Hmm.
and then later on you come to realize and know that that was wrong. Like, oh shit, I shouldn't have done that. It's kind of like back then when people would say like, um, maybe when we were like in middle school, like when we say oh that's gay, you know, they people
Yeah.
would associate that as a negative term. When like as time went by, we all learned that like, oh, we should stop using gay because there are actually, you know, there's people, there's not, it should be associated as a negative view or term,
Yeah.
because there are actually people who are gay and happy, you know.
That's
And
crazy. I we use that word so much, like for everything.
yeah,
And I don't think I stopped until like probably like high school, I think,
yeah,
when I actually
because
started meeting people who were gay and had like more friends who were gay. And then like then you realize like, well, like, why am I, like this kind of feels bad.
yeah, it just, you kind of realize like, oh shit, maybe I shouldn't be saying this shit, or like, because there are actually people who will, you know, feel hurt from these words. So you kind of learn from that and like, oh man, we should probably, that's why you learn from it and you stop doing it, you know. And then you realize that people who are gay, they're not bad people at all. They're actually really cool, nice people. It's like, why did we start doing that in the first place? And then, so times are changing, you know. It's how we've learned to evolve and adapt to making the world a better place. And that's why discussions are always really important. I think there was also I remember before there was a Heineken commercial. It could be very similar to like a one of those Jubilee YouTube videos where they have like people with opposing views
Hmm.
come together for a discussion. But the way this Heineken commercial did it was that they just had these two people talk to each other, you know, ask each other what their name is, what their hobbies are, what they do for fun, and it goes by each stage, and like after some time, they help each other build like a bar, this like bar, and then they sit down, they start having a beer together and just having a conversation, learning about each other, and they're having a good time and like wow, and then they stop they have the participants stop the conversation, and then they start playing like a what's it called? What's the thing? They start playing a video on a projector screen about a personal interview for each participant, asking about their views on like big views like climate change versus someone who doesn't believe in climate change, someone who doesn't believe in transgender, and someone who is a transgender. And then they revealed that the person that they've been talking to, this person is a transgender. This person doesn't believe in like genders other than or sexes other than male and female, and they're like, whoa, these people just had a conversation. They're having a good time together. They built a whole bar together as as a team, and then they were shown that they both have opposing views, and then they had that real conversation. Like, so I know, like, now I know where you stand, kind of thing. It's like they're actually like human beings on the other side. They're like it opened their eyes a little more. Like, hey, like, I guess I'm sorry for the way I thought. I didn't think that you would be like this. I didn't know you were transgender. And I was like, I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm here to answer your questions that you might have. I'm just like you. I'm human. I have my own choices, and I'm happy for the choices that I make. But I still do the very same things that you do, and we have so many similarities, And it's like, it was actually very nice to see. It's like a nice little social project.
That's cool. Is there do you have a link for that? I would like to watch that commercial.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, it's hard though. Sometimes it's like you want to believe that there's like always a person on the other side, like whoever you're talking to, and you try not to let like your like beliefs and stuff influence. Like, let's say you have like a friend who believes in all of that. You try to like not to let those beliefs get in the way of a friendship.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's like, I don't know. It's hard to not to let those things like it affect your view of them.
What kind of views are you saying?
Any like let's say like, for example, like you had a friend who hated gay people, and you didn't know that until one random day. It's like he's like, yeah, I'm super like gay people are like the worst. Like they should go to camps to be corrected, and like they shouldn't be allowed to marry. Like it's hard to not let that affect your view of them, right? Even though they're your friend, you're like, okay, shit. Or they're like, I'm a super racist. I hate all black people. You're like, okay.
I was like, well, shit. So, do you think do you think as a friend, do you have a moral obligation to not to correct them for what they think, or like do you try to not persuade, but like to talk into them, like see where that stems from, and try to like I don't know what I guess try to convince them that like, hey, maybe what you're thinking isn't the right way to think,
I think so. I think maybe not an obligation, but you do have like, you should try to talk to them, try to get through, try to make them realize that, or maybe just to make them think about their views a little bit more. Like, why do you feel this way? Is it irrational? Is it like, why are you generalizing a group of people based on like your experience with like 3 or 4 black people or 3 or 4 gay people? It's like,
Mm-hmm.
maybe not so much like convincing and more about like opening a channel for them to like maybe take a step back and reevaluate. I don't know, just because it's hard to like break those views, you know. It's hard to
Mm-hmm.
make someone like change their whole worldview.
It kind of sucks to say because I kind of know someone who's kind of like that,
Mm-hmm.
who I won't say any names, but he would say like, "Oh, I don't like, I don't like gay people, and I don't like if I ever have any like, um, I'm just gonna give a wild example. If I ever have children that were gay, they would not be my family." And I'm just like, what? I'm just like, but like, what did they do that was so wrong? You know that, you know, why is gay? I was just kind of talking to this person like, hey, like, what's wrong with being gay? He's like, I don't like it. I was like, yeah, but that's not. I know you don't like it. That's your that's your opinion. I understand, but like, even if it was your child, that's not their fault though. And he's
Okay.
like, I don't like, not my like, I don't care. My child would not be gay, and I'll be it. I'm like, damn. It's kind of hard to talk to someone, and I try to like reason with them. Was like, all right, what about these other people? Like, do you not like? It's like what I don't like the. This person was like, I don't like to talk to them. I don't like to acknowledge it, and I just don't like gay people. And then some another person would kind of bring it in like, well, what they do behind their their closed doors is their business. But what does that have to do with you?
You're right.
Like, why do you hate that they can live their own life? You know? And it's kind of like eye opening, and it's just I don't
should be
know.
like should be like, well, I hate that you're homophobic, but I'm still friends with you.
Right. You just can't say like I don't know. It's just hard because you already have so much history with this person already, and it's like I'm not gonna be friends with you no more after you said that. You know, like the best I could do in my situation, just kind of like ask them questions, make them just think about what they feel and why they feel that way, and like
Yeah.
just have them just reiterate like thoughts like, hey, I mean, it is what it is. Whether you want to live with that hatred is up to you, but this is what reality is now. This is what life is. And whether you don't like that or not is not going to change the fact that how they live their life, like how gay people will live their life or something, you know?
I'm fine if you have those views. I always say this. I'm fine if you have those views. Like, just no, like as long as you don't force it on other people. Like,
Mm-hmm.
as long as you're not trying to take away people's rights. Um, like, as long as you're not trying to actively harm people, that's fine. Be a fucking racist. Be a homophobe. Just I don't care. But when you start like harassing people, when you start trying to stop people from getting married, like what the fuck? Like when you try to like uh hurt people, then it's like, well, now you're just being a bad person, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not inherently bad for having those thoughts, because that's just your worldviews and that's how you were raised, how you view the world. That's fine. It's when you start like protesting people's rights. Like they can't get married, they can't have children, they shouldn't be able to uh come to my restaurant. You know, it's like, why? How does that affect you? What they do in their homes with their family? You know, it's like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. That's what I'm saying too. That's how I feel about religion as well. Like when someone has a religion, I'm fine with whatever they believe in. But if you try to press hard, like if you try to like, hey, Tin, this happens because this happens, and you should know that. And I'm
I
like,
get
no, like that
I got
doesn't work that
invited.
way.
I get freaking invited to church a lot.
Right?
Back when I used to hang out with a group of people, they were always like, "Hey, you want to come to service on Sunday?" I'm like, No, for the last goddamn time.
I've been down that
Like,
road
yeah, I'm
as
part of
well.
this like youth group in church. You wanna like just check it out? It's cool. I'm pretty. I'm like, bro. No.
I did go to, I think in high school there was a thing called Word of Life, or oh man, I forget what it was called. It was like like more of a gathering for Christians, but it was like really like, I don't know. One of my friends invited me to come, and it was just kind of in a way interesting. I just say it wasn't actually very more like a Christian thing or a religious thing. It was just a bunch of people hanging out, but it was led by a Christian leader. But however, the whole event was like this high school kids hanging out as a, like at night, on like a Thursday night or something, just for people to get together, talk, hang out. Um, and you never would think that it's like a Christian thing. It's just like people hanging out at a house. But it was like about like a good 30 of us, you know. I was invited to one of these meetings, and we have activities where we just play games, and it's really lighthearted too. Wasn't like a party where everyone's getting drunk. It's actually people just hanging out, having a good time. For people at home to give something to come out on a Thursday night to do and it helps because like instead of people going out to party and drinking, smoking weed or some shit, people will actually just have some nice curated, fun where we're not like getting into any kind of trouble. Just like, I don't know, board games, people hanging out, mingling, making friends, kind of thing. And at the very end, of these hangouts, the person who would organize it all will have everyone come into the to one room, and just kind of like saying, "Hey guys, thanks for coming to I forget what it's called. I'm not sure what it's called, Word of Life, but I think it's something else. But I was like, thank you for coming to this meeting, hangout session. You guys were awesome. I do want to share with you guys for a second, while I have the last few minutes of the night with you guys, is to, if you guys ever think about like Christianity, if you guys want to talk more about it or have any questions, I'm here. I'm here for you guys, and for any questions you guys might have or interested in joining us at church, let me know. Which is actually pretty nice. It's like they're not really pushing an agenda, but they were just kind of like showing us how you can still have fun without like any bad substances involved, and like keeping the kids out of the streets for doing things bad, and having them coming to like a nice place where people can get along with each other and have a good, good vibes and having a good time.
I mean, that's the kind of the main point of religion, is the community.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're building a community, you're building people who these people have the same values as you, so it's like easier to get along or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's just when they try to like convert you, then you're like, well, I don't know. But yeah, it's about community, it's about people who you can relate to, connect with.
Mm-hmm. It's about bringing each other up, lifting each other up to greater heights. And like, I don't know, I haven't had too many people just like trying to like really get me into religion or anything. Some people have asked me like, hey, like, I know one of my study group partners when I was in nursing school was asking me like, it's like, how do you deal with the stress, and like, do you like, you don't believe in like God at all? I was like, not really. I don't pray. I don't think, any like a higher power or anything. Like, I would say I'm an atheist. I don't really believe in anything. I don't look up to a higher being and ask him to do, for favors or anything like that. But, and I guess in a way they were really intrigued, like, how do you handle stress? Like, is there anyone that if you're in a big problem, is there anyone that you go to? I was like, well, if I was a big problem mentally, I'd try to talk myself out of it. I'll just kind of like, hey, Thinh, like, come on, let's get your shit together.
Why would you talk to God about your big problems? Talk to like someone who can actually help you. Like,
yeah, I mean, I guess I understand where they're coming from, because
I don't know.
Because sometimes some people
friends, family.
would feel lost, you know, and like they don't know what to do in a certain scenario or situation that they're in.
Cause okay, so don't get me wrong, I actually believe in God,
Mm-hmm.
but like I just don't understand like the institution of it. I think I love the community of it. I think I like it's just when you try to let it dictate your life,
Hmm.
let it try to make you try to make it dictate other people's lives. It's like
Mm, yeah.
you got to find your own way, you know?
I don't like the part when you try to let it dictate other people's lives, because that's pretty.
Like,
What your
Jin, you don't
life.
believe in it's like, oh, Jin, you don't believe in God? Well, how do you do this? Why can't you like what about this? What about this? It's like I know, I just figure it out, you know? Do
Hmm.
my own thing. I have
Everyone,
like
everyone has their own rhyme
support
and reason.
system.
Yeah.
I have a good support system. I have like friends, family.
You just kind of like, you know, find other people to help you out. And like some people would sometimes, you know, if they feel lost, they only like, not only, but they look to, you know, God for guidance and believe that everything happens for a reason, which is not a wrong thing, you know. I just like to, for me, I like to internalize everything that's happened to me and see what I can do and make the best out of the situation that's given to me, that's happened to me. And I kind of look into myself. If something bad's happening to me, I kind of blame myself for it. I internalize it. I'm like, oh, man, this happened because maybe because something I didn't do, or I should have done something quicker, or I always put the blame on myself and try to see what I can do to overcome it and learn from it.
Yeah. I
And
I understand that cuz I believe in God, but I think all the things that happen to me are a result of my choices, my decisions,
mm-hmm.
my own failings or my own like triumphs, you know? Like and God's not going to help me out of my problems and situations. It's up to me to come up with my own solutions, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, I got myself into this situation. I fucked up. Now I'm taking responsibility for it, and I have to like deal with the consequences, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I agree. That's how I feel about, like, I don't know, just my way of thinking of everything that's going on with my life, actually. And so that's why, you know, that's like what Dave Chappelle said. Like, I don't blame anyone for my own problems. I just learned to hate the feeling of it and like try to forgive and learn from it and, you know, move on, move forward. So, now we're getting to our last segment, which you all know, which we call "What's Up with You," where we discuss what we've been into, our latest interests and hobbies, and or shows that we're interested in. So what's up with me? So recently, actually, I started rewatching Naruto again. And it's actually
Okay.
kind of very nice because
Where are you watching it?
on Netflix.
Oh,
Yeah, Netflix. It's a bit different too, but I'll get into that. So the reason why I started watching it is like Tiffany was asking, why did you start watching Naruto again? Like, did you already watch that? I'm like, yes, I did. Because when I saw it popped up on my like Netflix feed, I was like, Naruto was like the very first. I don't want to say the very first, but it was the anime that really got me into anime. And I feel like
same.
it's a very similar story for a lot of other people too. And like I have to give appreciation to what Naruto like kind of opened my life to. It really opened up some doors and being open, like just being open to watching anime, which I never would thought I would do. And it was a really good anime to start off in the beginning, because you know at that time everyone thought ninjas were the fucking coolest thing ever. Everyone was fucking running around with their arms behind their backs and shit, like wishing they had a fucking kunai and shuriken and whatnot, hoping they had like a Konoha Leaf band like headband, but it was nice because I really wanted to see going into the show with the knowledge that I already know, but like there were some like things that I kind of like forgot about, and like while I was rewatching it, it was nice to see how everything was coming into effect and how we got to the end game of the show where we are now, like the end of the story. And like you can pick up like little bits and pieces of how like Naruto grows up, how he learns things. And I think like the first time I was watching, I think it was in middle school. I was watching off like these DVDs that Kevin let me borrow. It was all like DVDs of the first season. It was like 4 episodes per CD, and it was like I don't know how many CDs. It was like 6 CDs or some shit. And I just remember like going through all the nostalgic feelings of watching the show again, and like the smallest bits of details. It was very nice rewatching Naruto and how things came to be. I had a better understanding of it too. Now that I'm rewatching with an older mind, how all that came together. But yeah, that's the one reason why I started rewatching it. In the midst of rewatching that, Tiffany suggested I should watch Queen's Gambit, one of the newer Netflix shows on Netflix. I just finished it today, the first season. It was 7 episodes.
I started watching
long.
that show too. I'm like 3 episodes in, I think.
I think it's pretty interesting. Yeah, it gives a nice view, a different outlook on the game of chess. It's about a girl who grows up in an orphanage, and while she's in an orphanage, she learns how to play chess, and
she's a freaking prodigy.
she's a freaking chess prodigy, dude. She grows older, and
I tend to really like shows where the protagonist is very competent, but then like competent to the point where they're like a little overpowered, you know?
Yeah.
Because like when I watch animes, like I'm getting tired of the animes where the protagonist kind of sucks and is wimpy, and I'm like, I can't watch this stuff anymore. And then I watch a show where it's like he's like cool, competent, strong, and like has a goal and like strives for it. You're like, yeah, nice. This is what I want.
Like One Punch Man.
Yeah, he's just like
he's very strong as shit.
strong already.
He just has one little goal. But yeah, that's pretty much what Queen's Gambit is. Like she's like the best that she does, you know? And like you see her origin story and like how she progresses through, and it's actually pretty nice. And like it gives a whole different like it's actually opened my eyes to looking at chess differently too. When I would play chess, I would think like I never thought there would be actual like moves that had names to them, like
Oh,
a
yeah, for
way,
sure. Yeah,
the way
definitely.
that you play the board. There's like a certain way that you play. In my mind, I was just playing a piece. I was like, oh man, he's gonna take this piece if I move this piece here, and if I do this, he's gonna move this piece here. I never thought there was actual like strategies on how you should start off and like how to react to people and what pieces you could sacrifice to gain more, pretty much thinking like 10 like 15 20 steps ahead
Yeah,
versus
that's
like 3 steps ahead.
good player. Like the pros, they'll think like at least like 10 to 20 moves ahead.
Which is insane. That's some fucking crazy ass knowledge.
Yeah, it's I mean that's why this game's been around for millennia. It's the OG strategy game.
Yeah. So yeah, I would recommend it. Queen's Gambit. I'll say it was a good 8 out of 10 for me. So, what's up with you, Alan?
Recently I've been trying to connect with like my cousins a little bit more, like play games with them a little bit more. Especially now with like that everyone's on the internet, like everyone's on Discord now. It's just like easier to keep in touch with everyone and easier to play games with everyone.
Mm-hmm.
We've been playing Phasmophobia, and we just got this one game called Labyrinth. It's another like spooky game where we have to work together to escape like a hedge maze. Basically, it's like a and we're just like walking through, and then there's like puzzles along the way, and like you have to solve the puzzles while these like fucking ghouls and demons and shit are like chasing after you.
Oof.
It's really fun. It's really atmospheric. I think it's like in early access, so meaning like it's not like a completed game yet. They're just like letting people like play it while they work on it. But yeah, that game's called
Phasmagoria.
uh yeah, that game's called Phasmophobia. The game that we were playing was called Labyrinth.
Oh, Labyrinth. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Dang. It's like a teamwork co-op game.
Yeah. It felt like an escape room with my cousins.
I love escape room.
Yeah,
Oh
because
my god.
it was like atmospheric, and we were like solving puzzles while like running from monsters. So it felt like, and the we got out of the hedge maze like within an hour, I think,
Hmm.
and it really felt like an escape room, you know,
Damn.
like working together to solve the puzzle. Like, all right, you have this clue. What do you have? What do you have? Like, we got to put it together, you know.
That's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
Virtual escape room.
Yeah, it pretty much felt like in a virtual escape room, but better because it was
Ah,
like scary.
right. Do you get like really drawn into the game?
Yeah, it's very immersive because you like put your headphones on, and like it's really dark in the maze. You turn off all the lights
Oh shit.
and like
Wow.
bump into each other. It's really funny because it's like you're trying to run and you're like, get out of the way, run faster. You're like behind someone and the maze is like too narrow for you to run past them. You're
Oh
just like,
no. I've always liked doing escape rooms in real life.
Mhm.
So I wonder how relatable is that to Labyrinth? Do you think?
uh, not sure, but it did feel very escape room like because they were like a bunch of puzzles you had to solve to get out.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
did like a ton of escape rooms right before quarantine, like in January and February. We did like 5 or 6. It was all fun. I kind of miss it.
I miss it too. Because it feels so. Something about escape rooms when you feel like when you finally solve a puzzle, it feels so rewarding. When
Very
you solve,
satisfying.
yeah, very satisfying. You get one clue and you solve that clue, and it's like, oh, and it leads you to another clue. And it's like, oh my god, again. I feel like it's just made to set you up for like a sense of accomplishment when
Hmm.
you solve a clue. It's like, oh my god, you feel so smart. Like you beat the game master's like a little puzzle, and the best feeling is that you all come out on time, like before the timer.
That's literally why we play D&D, is because we feel like when we solve the game master's puzzles, we're like, hell yeah, teamwork. We solved it. We did it. It's so satisfying.
Do the game masters plan the puzzles before you guys come together?
Yeah, they plan like everything.
Oh damn, that's dedication right there. Dang. Well, that's a minute and actually a minute. That's an hour and a half already. I guess that'll tie up our episode. Thank you for listening, guys. If you haven't yet, subscribe to us, or you can find us on Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, and don't be afraid to leave some feedback or any questions or topics you want us to watch or answer questions. And until next time, thank you for listening. Next will be episode OkaCast 21. All right. See you guys.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.